Hello, everybody. I'm More Gravity. Let's play chess. Question in my mind is whether I'm going to play blitz chess or at a slower time control. We had poor results at a quick time control, so let's play one level slower. This is a slower time control than usual. 10 minutes per side per game. I wasn't expecting resignation there. Let's see what happened. Off for a rematch. Okay. So what happened here? We had spirited game. I was not expecting. I was just not expecting resignation there, though. Maybe I should have been. I feel I played a really reasonable game. I don't know if I calculated things out to full accuracy, but that my moves were practical and pragmatic and so forth. For instance, when I played knight e2 to d4 to block the attack line of the rook on the d file, the rook was sitting on d1. That was a kind of a cool thing for me. And then I might have calculated a better exchange of pieces in this sort of area. But I thought, hey, knight to b4 covers both rooks. The rooks are now doubled on this f2 pawn, and it just looks like the game is going to be a lot easier to play as black from here on. Plus, I'm up 2 points worth of material, so that's how that is. Let's take a look. Yeah, so like I said, the game wasn't extremely calculated, but it felt good. I don't know how else to say it. If there's a word for chess good, then it felt that. It was chess good. Let's go through. Well, my guess would be that I didn't make many blunders or misses. Yeah, no, I'm right. The mistakes I made were on the order of inaccuracies and mistakes, but no blunders and no misses. It was a really good feeling game overall. I don't know. Thought both sides played well, and so on. My opponent pushes a bit in the beginning here, in the early going. It doesn't really come to much right away. And I thought Queen A5 check was interesting at the time, and I'm sorry to see that it's a mistake. I think my opponent would have done well to play Bishop C3 here. Stockfish likes Knight D2 better, and Queen C3 is also an idea. Now Black breaks free a bit here with this positional queen swap, if there's such a thing. I'm gonna swap queens here, and I'm doing it in a way that leaves black for the better after the queen swap, right? So that's why knight bishop takes a5. Is not horrible, but it is a mistake. It is bad because I think equal amounts of material are traded. Doesn't this just leave black dominating the only open file on the game? Right? This C file is going to have doubled rooks on it. This pawn at e4 doesn't really matter if it captures or not, because I can capture with the knight, and if the pawn doesn't capture, I can instigate the capture or initiate the capture. So I just feel really positive about this position here for black. let's go. Okay, so here with black to move, right? So black to move, and it's enough for the initiative because of rook to c8, right? That's probably what black. Is that what I played in the game? Yeah, rook h to c8. All right, that's the initiative for black. Clock black by about 28 seconds. Initiative and clock. Now mobility and space. It's hard to say. Maybe white has a little bit of extra space. I don't know. Space, let's say, doesn't really factor in because the d5 pawn's a liability, folks, and white also has double pawns. So there's not space. What did we say? Mobility, space. King safety. It's hard to say, really, here. I want to say black has king safety. The king on d7. It's it's on a light square, so it's not assailable by the bishop at a5. The knight is going to take a little while to get there, if at all, and the rooks have to kind of come to the c-file, which is dominated by black anyway, initiate a check on c7, and that's only if we can get that rook covered, defended when it's on c7. So I'm saying black's king is safe here. So what do we have? King safety, space, initiative, clock, mobility. Mobilities for black. For instance, the pawn on the 8th rank, the pawn on the 2nd rank, the knight being all central. Black's e7. Bishop has much to learn about mobility, but that's not the only part. That's not the only piece on the board. And then materials even. There's materials even between the two sides. Okay. All right, let's see how it played out from here. Like I said, doubling on the c-file, definitely. There's a threat, immediate threat of rook c1 check after rook takes c1, and rook takes c1 check. King must move to e2, and then the rook on h1 hangs. So this was a doubling. This is a very strong move here. Rook h to c8. I like my opponent's response too. Hey, there are more than one ways to skin a cat. My opponent says if I put a minor piece on the c-file, you'll have to lose material before you can bust the rest of the c-file back open for your rooks. And black is saying, okay, thanks for the pawn. This one-upmanship about this part of the game is part of what makes chess great. So I'm very complimentary towards my opponent, Anuja Prabodha, and I feel whoever he or she is played an excellent game of chess. Rook to d1 is not, the computer doesn't like it. Some of these moves are made under some time pressure. It doesn't seem all that bad to me. It's beautiful. So black's picking up a pawn. Now here I found a nifty move. Idea with knight to e2 is to use the squares that I have deep within white's camp. The knight is attacking g1. And yes, I realize that rook takes g7 could happen. I just felt like this is a lot of pressure that black is putting on white's position in a number of ways here. That this is just, it's pressure. It's a lot of pressure. It doesn't have to be a tangible pawn that you can set on the side of the playing surface or the board. But there's just, have a knight in this close to your own king now. Now I'm speaking sort of as white. To have a knight in this close that's scary. That's scary. I'm glad I put my knight there because I think it gives my opponent nightmares. Rook to d4, and yes, this is the other point of knight to e2 is rook. Sorry, knight to e2 is knight to d4. There's this. White has a lot of pressure, too much pressure, on d6. White captures on f7, then one of the only two defending pieces, including king's pieces for the moment. One of those only two defending pieces is now pinned to the other defending piece. This is a horrible situation for black if he doesn't find the right move, right? And we see that those two moves are king e6. Looks fun, but I played knight d4, which my computer says is almost as good. Again, introducing an idea originally brought to me by my opponent that my minor piece can block a rook's file. So we sort of traded that great idea in the course of this chess game. I also, yes, was aware when I played knight e2, when I decided to play knight e2, I was aware of this potential fork on at c2 with knight c2 check, picking up the bishop. That could in some lines become a possibility. I think I do utilize that, and it was good enough to do so, good enough to pick up the bishop. I'm now a piece ahead, and it's not clear that White's attack will net him quite that much against my being ahead by almost a minor piece. And I played rook to c2. Not the best move. I agree, but I'm not. I didn't want to overthink things. Maybe king to e6 would have been a little bit stronger. I lose the knight on c8, but then I'm capturing. I lose the rook on c8, but then I'm capturing a rook on f7. So tit for tat, and if the knight even doubles back to capture on e7, then I'm also capturing the knight. Let's try this. Let's see this by hand, as they say. But practice by hand. I'm gonna go like this. So a little different move order proves my plan in RDS. Let's find a better move for black than king e6. I played rook to c2. My thought being, I could give the discovered attack, and then if worse comes to worse, I'm gonna put a perpetual check against White's king. Right, my backup plan is a draw for black. King e6 is a blunder. Let's try this. Like this. Opponent gets the discovered check. Aha. With the retreating knight going to e4, this discovered, or this perpetual check is not there. Because a minor piece is defending the e2 square. Okay. So that was what was wrong with rook to c2. Let's try one more time to find the best move here for black. e6 was no good. We'll try... I don't know. I don't have any good ideas either, so I'll show it here. I would not have gotten to that quickly. Rook to f8. Black has to get rid of this potential discovered attack at some point. Maybe king c6, no? King e6 now, okay. And then rook to f6 with the idea of trading pieces to help ease the pressure against black. And now we're at a sort of a different juncture. We figured out that one problem, and it's best if we figure out a new problem now. Figure out this next problem. I think bishop to h4 is good, right? Don't we kind of play some here, and then there's this fork at the end. Okay. No. Good is not good here. Good is not good here. There's a lot of things. Like we could consider rook b2, and there's no good way for black to. There's no good way for white to defend the pawn at b3. So maybe knight c5 before or after capturing. So that's difficult. The b3 pawn's defended by way of this fork. Let's look again here. I don't like the knight moving there any more than I like the knight moving here, so that's another reason to avoid attacks right away against b3. Here's what we'll do. We're gonna play we're gonna play bishop to e7. Now we're controlling the square that the knight needs in order to make the capture of the b3 pawn difficult for black. Play rook to b2, and then rook takes b3, and we have another pawn now ahead by 2 pieces of material, and a silicon opponent here has gone for he's pushing the h pawn in hopes of promoting it. Make this is going to be the knight's task to try to stop me from capturing on h6. It looks like white abandoned that idea. The idea of rook a. I played the move rook b8 to make the white knights make it a white knight's task to stop me from capturing this passed pawn on the h file. Again, the knight at d5 is cutting off access to other parts of the board. Once again, we see a minor piece interfering with the functioning of an otherwise very healthy rook. And the computer at maximum strength played rook to a1. More or less surrendering one passed pawn for another. That's my initial impression, is that the rook to a1 kind of calls for rook to h8, and then rook takes h6, loses the rook to that skewer, we might see with time, but also again, maybe not. So, rook to b8, rook to a1. Somehow there's a stronger way for black to play. Okay, I'm gonna try one more go here at this position. This is far afield, so we'll just hint out at this point. Take this guy. This is gonna be complicated. Okay. Okay. That was a hoot. What a hoot. This is going to be very, very accurate because I hinted at so many moves. I'm not going to waste. I'm not going to waste time looking into that. Uh, Back to the actual game. It's something more like this, and my opponent resigned. This is at the end of the game, so we will play this out. This is how the end of the game was. Let's see if my opponent didn't resign, how things might have went otherwise. Let's go back. This is a sort of a try, but I think the correct move is probably rook to f2, rook g to f2 is probably the best move there. Capturing a pawn while attacking a pawn at b2. Aha. King e6 is the answer here. With the pawn and rook back to sec. White loses a rook, but gains back a rook. However, now black has easier board. You know what? I'm going to make things a little bit harder on white. King d5 is probably fine, but king to e7 is a little bit better, proving the idea that the rook now has to move and waste time. And not only that, my opponent has chosen rook to f2. My Silicon opponent is trading rooks now, and we put the king on f6, guarding our own pawn, and we're within the correct distance to protect against h4, and within the square of the pawn quite seriously inside the square of the pawn. The question becomes, how are we going to make this a pawn a bigger threat? The idea, watch, this is a, I don't think I'll get full credit for this move, but notice, knight to c6, protecting e5, protecting a7, halting b3, dead in its tracks, centralizing the knight just a little bit, just in case there needs to be heroics on h8, though I'm not really sure that there will be. So knight to c6 I think is a clear winning move. Oh, I'm glad I found the move. And now my king can deal with the h pawn aggressively. The king comes into place upboard to help aid variations where the e pawn's gonna promote. Knight stays in place, doing a grand job protecting and preventing. My opponent chose the best move, which was king to e3. How will I face this? I'm just going to take away squares with king to f5. And this is just completely one for black. Okay. I didn't hint much. I didn't hint much. I didn't hint much during that game. In previous practice, not this one, wherever the previous practice is or was or would be, I pretty much hinted out. Just show me where the pieces go. I'll be interested to see how this version was rated in accuracy, as it reflects more directly and more purely how accurately I actually played the black side of this game. Alright, still, yeah, like I said, it still wasn't a crazy accurate game, but it was fun. What a total blast. Anuja, Praboda, and I had during my game with Anuja Praboda. So it's total fun, total blast. Alright. So I let that game play out. Pretty much. All this. This close. Okay. What kind of time? Let's play another 10-minute game. Petrov defense. Knights. Okay. Review that game. Game once in a while, a game kind of slips away from somebody. Didn't play that great myself. Kind of slipped away from me. And my opponent didn't play all that great either. Kind of slipped away from him, her, and there. Probably him based on the username. And this game is just not accurate at any point. Nonetheless, we'll play out from the end of the game. So Ryan Horton resigned. It's Black's turn to move. We're going to practice against computer. My opponent plays a very aggressive move, not an accurate move. And then I played mostly to avoid subsequent disaster, including by playing queen to e2. Should be the only good move really at that position. I cannot. I will not win this position against the computer on maximum. So let's go back to capturing on c3. I think was right, and then my opponent played rook e8. Knight e4 was not correct. Let's see. It was, the threat against Black's king immediately was a better move. Keep it real to the game, and then knight e5 is the computer move after that. This square is vulnerable. This square is vulnerable. That's it. You'd like me to go straight for the threats against Black's king. Ay, ay, ay. All right. Okay. Thank you for watching. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.